Hello everybody, my name is the English Born Idiot, and welcome back to another upload. And as it's been the third upload since I've come back in over a year and a half, I can maybe say I am pretty much fully back. Now, as you can see from today's title, we're going to be looking at, is modern gaming bad? Or is everyone just complaining too much? Or is everyone just kind of like, is everyone just complaining too much? So, before we begin to get into this, please leave a like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you'll know whenever I upload. So let's get into it. Now, unlike last week's video, which was quite depressing and somber, this video will be a lot more calmer and hopefully a lot more funnier, especially in a lot of bits. And yeah, we're talking about the state of gaming and how, and if like these complaints that are being shown are warranted. And I'm gonna be honest, spoiler alert, it's a nuanced take. It's very nuanced discussion. It isn't just this thing of, yeah, there's definitely a lot of good, bad gaming. There's definitely a lot of good takes about gaming's bad, but then there's also a lot of stupid fucking takes that are absolutely so moronic that it ruins every single aspect, that it ruins a lot of aspect of critical reviews on gaming, which I'll get into in a bit. Yeah. Now, however, before we talk about how bad games are or are not, we need to take a trip down memory lane to revisit the older gaming franchises. As, again, we need a baseline to see, like, okay, if it's bad now, what was it then, and was it good then? And a lot of these people are like, oh, we need gaming as they should be as well. A lot of these people are like, do complain about, like, these games need to be where they should and how they were, like, 20 or so years ago. So, let's look at it. The older state of gaming and why it's remembered so fondly. Again, gaming was very different 20 or 30 years ago. There wasn't as, again, there wasn't as many big companies. There wasn't, like, the idea of, like, AAA games and the thing. There's just so much, that came from the last 10 or so years of gaming, for better and for worse, that we'll discuss later in the video. But now, what was gaming like 20 years ago? Or, well, 30 years ago. I'm going down for that. We need to look at gaming as it was 20 or 30 years ago, and see if it was so good, and see if these complaints are warranted. Short answer, of course they're fucking great! Oh my god! Genuinely, the games from 20 or 30 years ago are so good. They're like, I'm telling you, there's so many good games that have come out in the last 20 or 30 years. And again, and I have a personal top 5 list. Top 5 franchises. It's a very, like, iffy top, like, it's the most fugazi top 5 I've ever fucking done in my life. These are between 1996 and 2008, according to the IDGB list, which is a game where it's a list where fans vote on that, and it's very weighted. I don't for this list here for the 1996 to 2008. I don't disagree with, I think, most of the games on the list. And again, I'll have the link down below so you guys can check it out for yourself. It's the modern game where I'm like, okay, there's one or two where I'm like, maybe might be a bit. So yeah, we'll see just what games are on there that were on that list. That considers so highly prestige. We have the entire Metal Gear Solid original trilogy. Well, Metal Gear Solid trilogy, not the original trilogy that includes Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid Snake. But again, it has Metal Gear Solid 1, which I've nearly played. Obviously, gameplay is from Metal Gear Solid 5, which I'm enjoying quite a lot. I know it ranked B tier, but again, it's still a very good game for me. We have Metal Gear Solid 1, which I enjoy so much. It's an A tier game for me already. I think, again, it's a lovely game. I haven't played Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 yet, but Metal Gear Solid 3, I've heard, again, a lot of, like, again, if any Metal Gear Solid fans are in the, are watching this video, please let me know in the comments what your favorite Metal Gear game is. Like, your top 3. Because, again, Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, is considered one of the best games in the franchise, and when I was looking at this list, from games from 1996, 2008, Metal Gear Solid 3 was the best game on the list. It was the top of the list. It was number 1 on that list. Now, it might have changed. It might change again by the time you guys see this. I don't know. But yeah. We also have the first 2 Fallout games, which, again, has become one of the biggest franchises. It's become a huge franchise that is known for, like, again, like, it has, again, we have Fallout 1, we have Fallout 2, which is considered, like, again, people, like, it's a bit, people think, like, oh, it's a bit finicky, but again, people still do really like the games. Again, it's still really interesting games. Then, of course, we have Fallout 3, which people love. We have Fallout New Vegas, which is considered the best one. We have Fallout 4, which people, it's much more divisive. And then there's Fallout 76, which was shy on release, apparently, but then people have come to more enjoy it. So again, these two games that were, like, seen as very good when they came out, for, like, very good for when the time they came out, has now, like, launched a huge franchise. And of course, I can mention, there's obviously game franchise that I kind of have to mention because it was in my last video, and that's Halo. Halo CE, Halo 2, and Halo 3, which of course is obviously my third favorite game of all time at the moment. They have all three Halo games on that list, and I have to agree, they're very good games. And they're all very good games, and again, they've launched a, well, obviously, again, people talk about 343 and what they've done with Halo, and a lot of the stuff they dislike with that. But again, it has launched a huge franchise outside of, like, Halo CE and, like, then Halo 2 and, like, stuff like that. So there is, like, also a whole bunch of, yeah. But yeah, it's still a huge franchise, even with, like, a lot of what the guys are like, I don't know, like, yeah, they're it's a bit like, I don't know, man, it's a bit like, yeah, but it's review away from rambling for a second. And of course we have, again, older Pokemon games. Red, Blue, I think Yellow, I don't know if Yellow's on there, but Red and Blue, and Gold, Silver, and Crystal are all on the list. Well, Gold, like, Gen 1 and Gen 2. It's the original Gen 1 and 2 games. I am shocked that Gen 3 and Gen 4 aren't on that list. Like, again, especially Gen 3, like, I swear, like, I might be watching too much M&J TV, but who does a lot of, like, fucking, who loves Gen 3 a lot. But I swear Generation 3 and, like, the Hoenn games were considered, like, so much, like, better than, like, were considered, like, had so much, like, love for them. But, yeah, I'm not going to disagree that the older Pokemon games aren't good, especially Yellow. I played through Yellow, like, last year, and I loved it. Like, not last year, I think year and a half ago, like, I finished it around my 4th year of university of my bachelor's degree, and I really liked it. It obviously does have a lot of kinks to it that are, like, that need to be worked, that were worked out in, like, the second game, like, the second generation, but it is, like, oh my god, it's so just, like, I love Pokemon Yellow. Not as much as I love Pokemon Black. It's this game that I still have. It's gonna be my #1 game of all time for a while. I don't think, unless, like, the fucking remakes are gonna be as better. I can't say they will, but yeah. So, and by the way, this is just a small amount of the games I mentioned. There's still, like, again, I mentioned, what, 1, 2, 3, there's 4 games from Pokemon, there's 3 games from Halo, 2 of the Fallout games, and then Metal Gear Solid Trilogy. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then, like, 11, 12 games? That's, like, 12%. Well, yeah, 12 divided by 100 is 12%. Who would have fucking guessed? You know, basic maths, Jamie. Yeah. 12% of the list, and again, just think about all the other games, and these are just the games that I myself have like, again, more love for than other games. You know, these are the games. Now, there's a few Call of Duties that are on the list as well, some of the older Call of Duties that are considered, like, very good, and considered, like, very well done. And again, those are also on the list as well. Again, there's, like, just so much nicer stuff, and you can kind of see, like, a bit of a pattern where there's, like, the bigger franchises. It's, like, these huge franchises that are on the list that are, like, they're in their infancy almost, in a way, where they're still, like, okay, like, they're in a way where it's like, oh, this is, like, the best shit ever. But yeah, moving on to the next point, the nostalgia factor. It is also important to consider the nostalgia factor when looking at these older games. Now, for nostalgia, for those who don't know what the word means and didn't pay attention in Leaving Serious English, or high school for all my American viewers, which is actually most of you. So yeah, hello from America. Well, hello from Ireland. Hello, my American viewers, and my 1% Dutch viewers. Hello to you. I don't know any words in Dutch, but I hope you're having a good day in the Netherlands, and I hope the weather's nice there, as it is in Ireland. But But yeah, it is defined as a sentimental, longful, or wistful affection for a period in the past. Now, do gamers have a nostalgia for older games? No shit, they do. And A, lot of the games that were being released back in the day were really fucking good. And B, a lot of the people want to go back to the time when these were good and didn't have to deal with a lot of the current issues that you have in life. Because again, shit's fucked for gaming, for everything. It's an unfortunate bit of life at the moment. Like, shit's a lot more fucked than it was, I'd say, like, probably 20 years ago, especially, like, if you look at your own personal life, you're probably a lot younger, probably a lot less caring. Hell, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, I was 6. Do I care about inflation or politics? No, the only inflation I care about is if my fucking if my ball at the fucking pool is gonna inflate or not. That's it, man. I didn't care about like how like stuff is gonna like grow economy. I didn't understand that shit. I was a dumbass when I was 6. I didn't fucking understand shit. I didn't care about shit at all, man. I didn't understand any of that. So yeah, obviously, there's definitely that aspect of it when you're looking at there's definitely that aspect of it when you're looking at that. But yeah, just like you're going back to a time where it's like it's just nicer. Yeah. Gamers definitely have a lot of nostalgia for older games, which by itself is not a bad thing. I don't want to say like nostalgia isn't a bad thing. It is. Again, it's like, you know, obviously a lot of companies do like extort a lot of nostalgia. So, but there isn't anything inherently bad with having nostalgia for games that you enjoyed in your childhood. Like looking back on your childhood and having like good experience and having like nice good experiences is actually a good thing in my opinion. I think it's like, you know, taking the joys from what you had in the past is nice. But yeah. However, when looking at people who have like very nitpicky and bad faith arguments that I might mention, that I'll probably be mentioning a bit later on, it definitely like, okay, is nostalgia a reason for, like, are they just being overly nostalgic to the game that they've shown and they aren't being fair to newer games coming out because of how much like love they've had? Again, it's like it really needs to depend on like what else they're saying. They aren't just like it can't just be like, oh, they dislike a game, so it's like they're being critical toward the new games. So it's like, oh, they must be only disliking because they just love the old game. You do need to have a bit more nuance than that. You do need to be like, okay, it is probably a bit more like, it is probably a bit more like, okay, you kind of need to look at the, you kind of need to look at how, like, what are they saying about the game specifically to, and then you can maybe say, like, okay, yeah, then they are just, like, looking at it from a nostalgic point of view. But, moving on, we can now look at the current games from the last 10 years to see if the games are worse, and if not, why are they complaining about it? Like, what are the complaints about this? So, the modern state of gaming and why it's decisive. So, again, in the last 10 years, we've seen definitely lots of different games come out. There has been many games released that I have enjoyed. I think, now, have any of them crossed my top 10 list? Funnily enough, none that I played. Like, a lot of the games I'm playing recently are old games. Now, technically, the footage that you're watching, MGS5, will be counted on the list. So that's probably one of the few games that I'd be like, yeah, this is a very enjoyable game. Obviously, no, GTA 5 isn't even on there, because GTA 5 was, like, over 10 years ago. That's an insane thing. Just like, yeah, it was on every fucking upgraded console. It was on 3 generations of consoles. But yeah, again, there's just so much games have released in the last 10 years that we'll get into. I don't want to like just say like certain aspects of it, and I've just thrown that guy through a window. I just wanted to mention that because of how stupid I was at that moment. I fucking when I'm looking back, I'm probably gonna edit this, so I don't know why the fuck I'm saying that, but it's probably gonna be edited. I'm gonna try and like not edit past this point, so like the audio matches with this. This is just a funny, stupid moment. But yeah, I'm so sorry, but yeah, we'll get back into it. Are modern games good? To really get to the conclusion and decide if newer games are good, And how do we determine that? Honestly, it's like, really difficult. Games, like, views on games are subjective. And each review, no matter how much, like, game reviewers will say, like, oh, we're doing this very fairly, there's no bias in it. There's always fucking bias. As a person who's done forensic science, there will always be bias in some aspects. And there will always be a little bit of bias in little bits of actions. You can't, like, again, you can't control your inherent biases towards certain stuff. If you've only played first-person shooter games, you're gonna enjoy games that are first-person shooters. So chances are you're not gonna rank like platformers or Metroidvanias as fully fairly as you would with that. Again, even if you really enjoy one, you might be like, okay, but it's not the experience I'm used to enjoying. So, like, again, like, you might not be as, like, again, you're gonna have, like, a small bit of bias towards it, and that's perfectly fine in my opinion. It's just how you show that bias and how you deal with that bias is that shows, like, are you being fair to them? Are you at least giving them the chance? Are you at least giving these games a chance? Now, I will say again, I'm going to mention this at the end of the video, but again, you don't have to put your money into games you don't want. I will always say this: don't put money into games you do not want, especially in this economy of gaming, where everything's being charged out the ass, which I will get into more later. But yeah, a lot of the game again is very subjective, lots of bias, and bigger franchises and IPs have a lot more views, will garner a lot more like reviews in it for better and for worse, which will skew like how these are viewed and affected. But I think still looking at the games, the top 100 games for the last 10 years, to see if they are good, especially for the games that came out in the last 5 years. Now, looking at the games for the last 10 years, well, from 2015, there's lots of great from a lot of existing IPs. We have Metal Gear Solid 5, which came out in 2015. The Uncharted series. God of War had, like, 2 games come out in, like, the end of the 2010s and the beginning of 2020s with God of War Ragnarok. We have God of War Laufey that's coming out soon, which I know a lot of people have been giving very stupid fucking criticisms about, which is definitely something that I'm gonna talk about later, and I dislike criticisms that are like that because again it's bad faith and it doesn't actually tell you like if the game is good or not. It's not a good criticism of the game. The Doom as well got like so much push I think in the mid 2010s in 2016. No, 2015. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 2016 Doom 2016 released. Then Doom Eternal I think came out in 2018. Then I can't remember the name of the newer Doom game, but that came out in like 2022. I think, or like it came out in the 2020s. It came out in the last few years. So again, another huge existing IP that was around for a while. Obviously, you have the Soulsborne games. Like so many Soulsborne games came out which, by the way, for those who don't know, is from soft titles that are basically like Elden Ring, Demon Slayer. Why can't I remember it? Bloodborne and... Oh my god! Why can't I remember what it's called? It's the biggest... Oh my god, that's so stupid. Okay. I'm gonna put it in the title. I'm gonna put it here, like, on the screen, like, just like, it's this, you stupid idiot. Yep. Editor JB, you're gonna have to fix this. We also have Baldur's Gate 3, which again is an existing IP. I know it was, like, I know it's their first, like, game release in like years, but again, it is an existing IP from beforehand. There's also a lot of new IPs that have been released, such as Hollow Knight as well. That's like again very like independent. A lot of these are independent as well, which is something I will bring out. We have Hollow Knight, Undertale, Stardew Valley, Expedition to the Tree, which obviously it was quite controversial in a lot of ways, but again, it's still like it was still very highly regarded when it came out. I never played it myself, so I'm not going to say like yeah it is and like the criticisms were unwarranted for it. But I do want to say like again it is like something that was on this list and it is. I don't think it's an indie that in itself isn't an indie title, but I think it is like a new like independent intellectual like. I think it's a new like game. Like it's not like from an existing universe. So I'm having it in there, and of course Cyberpunk 2077. Yes, I can speak words. So I can definitely say, and so can you, that there's so many new games that were in the last 10 years and considered pretty good. Like, you can't tell me that Undertale, you can't tell me that Baldur's Gate 3 or God of War or Uncharted or any of the Souls, but Demon, it's fucking Dark Souls! God damn it! Shit, okay. Yeah, whatever. Unfortunately, due to my dumbassery, I may have deleted some part of the footage, so I need to re-record this. So, here. So, going back to it, we have refusing to look at indie titles. A lot of the best games that have been released, especially when you look at that top 100, do seem to be indie titles in independent development. You know? And a lot of the people who make statements about these newer games that they aren't good don't play indie games. They straight up ignore how good these games are and can be because they aren't made from an EA or another big company. And I think that is dumb. I think indie games should be given a chance. I think a lot of indie games are good. You obviously famously have Undertale. There's like so many, you have fucking Lethal Company as well, who's made by one guy in a cave with a box of scraps. Yes, I had to redo that joke again, because I forgot what I did the first, because I fucking deleted this part the first time. I'm gonna also kind of blame PlayStation for that, because I was supposed to split the clip, not delete it. Whatever. Moving on to the next section. Older titles not holding up as well. Plus, it'll allow me to better express my opinion on this section. A lot of existing older franchises that a lot of people have been playing for a while have been seeing a dip in quality, a significant dip in quality. We of course have Halo, we have Call of Duty, we have Assassin's Creed, and especially due to what Ubisoft is doing right fucking now, all of these franchises, once seen as good, great, or excellent, have been really putting out titles that. But however, recently they've been putting out titles that have been really less than ideal, and especially for the prices that they've been selling them for. Now, why are these games so bad? Why are these games no longer holding up well? There's a lot of things. A, the games on release just aren't as good as they should be. They aren't anywhere near the quality that they should be. The addition of DLCs are a very poor thing, and it really does the addition of DLCs aren't really that good. They kind of fuck with how content comes into the game, and then how the world develops. It does kind of my opinion is, if DLC adds to the world, which should have been put in the original game, then it isn't exactly. Why was it in the original game? Why are we paying €15 extra for additional stuff that we could have seen in the base game? It seems like you're purposely keeping stuff away from us and then forcing us to pay.
Good dog.
And these newer games have significantly lowered in quality. Again, they just aren't as good. There's microtransactions, all of that stuff as well. That is a very shitty business practice. And lowering so a lot of these existing IPs have just been kind of throwing out slop, for lack of a better term. You know, it really is just a bit of slop that has been shown. But yeah, moving on to the next bit. Games not being marketed towards men. This might be the bit controversial part of the video. It might be a bit like, ooh, okay, what do you mean by that? And what I mean by that is a lot of bitching and complaining by a lot of stupid idiots on Twitter, especially, complaining that, oh, gaming is woke and gaming is stuff like that. That is a dumb argument. That is a stupid argument. If you, I'll go on to this later as well. Gaming being marketed towards just only one demographic is stupid, and it being marketed towards more demographics is just A, better for a business, and B, allows for more stories to be created. So of course there's going to be more stuff. Duh. But again, a lot of the people that complain about it, especially on Twitter, is that gaming is woke and pandering to women. I don't like that complaint, because no fucking duh, they're going to expand their marketing toward just one group of people. And a lot of the complaints are also, especially when you look at God of War Laufey and just kind of recent stuff around that, is how women look, how the women in the games look. They complain that they don't look as sexy enough to what their degree is, even though what they deem as sexy is based off of a kind of characterized version and not, the mocap that a lot of these new people have. Again, a lot of this whole mocap thing is a huge reason for why everything looks like that. Let's look at God of War. Let's look at the God of War franchise, because again, there was complaints like that for the God of War Laufey series. Now, for God of War and God of War Ragnarok, they used mocap actors. They used different mocap actors for this, and they had the actors for Christopher Judge, and I'm going to look this up for a second because I couldn't remember the name for the actor for Atreus. I don't want to mispronounce his name, so I'll put it up here now, wherever the video will be, but it's Sonny Sodrick, I think. But yeah, he's the person who played Atreus in God of War and God of War Ragnarok, and it looks strikingly similar to how he looked then. And obviously, famously, with GTA 5. Again, looks the same. But yeah, we'll go on to that in a bit later. Then, again, also famously, in Claire Obscure's Expedition 33, we had Charlie Cox, who, if you don't know, he is the live-action actor for Daredevil, or Matt Murdock, in the Netflix's Daredevil show and Disney's Daredevil Born Again series, which are in the same universe as each other. But, again, and it's based off him. It's based off the actor that plays him, which is, funnily enough, one of the actors that are in Daredevil Born Again is also the actor for, it's also one of the actors, is the actor for Laufey. She's the actor for Laufey. And a lot of people complain about how she looks. We're like, bro, what the fuck? She's a very attractive woman. Come off it. Let's be fucking real. Let's be really serious for 2 seconds about insulting her looks. It's weird, I think. And obviously this goes back to GTA 5, where they had a lot of mocap in that sense as well. Like, again, if you look at, go all the way back to GTA 5 when it came out, the actors look like the characters look like their actors. Stephen Ogg looks like Trevor. Luke, Luke and I can't remember Sean and Luke. Sean, Luke, and Stephen all look like their characters. They all look like Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. They look like the actors they are meant to portray. Because it's more of an, I think Stephen Ogg put it as it's less of like. It's more like proper like acting instead of just like voice lines and stuff like that. It's less voice acting. It's more like actual like physically acting in certain senses. That's what it is more. You're doing more of the physical stuff yourself with mocap now. So it's modeled more based off that. Again, as I mentioned earlier, Sonny looks like Atreus, and Christopher Judge does in some way look like more like the modern adaptation of Kratos. And I will always say this whenever I bring up Christopher Judge. I love him. He's a super underrated actor. I hate that MGM and Amazon fucked with the Amazon fucked with the reboot for Stargate. Fuck Amazon for that. Fuck you, you piece of shit. Moving on. Now, I don't like critiques that are on that the game is just woke for a lot of reasons. And it basically just because you're playing as a woman, or the woman looks realistic to how women should look. I think it's always so loud as well. These complaints are always so loud, and they aren't actual critiques of the game. And these are critiques that come out before the gameplay has released. These are just like they see women in game and get so so angry about it that it just really just clouds any criticism, which I'll get into more. And it's always just so fucking miserable because it's like, dude, come on, it's just a game. Just like if you're not interested in the game, you don't need to spend your money on it. It doesn't matter. You have tons of other games you can play. You can get the entire Halo trilogy. You can get the entire Halo series for the Xbox 360 for like less than €50. You can get Halo 1, That's backwards compatible on the 360. Halo 2, which is backwards compatible. You can get Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo ODST, Halo Wars, Halo 4 if you want to get that. You can get that all for like the price of a new game. And for same with like the older Call of Duty, same with the older God of War, same with Devil May Cry. I have the entire Devil May Cry. I have all of Devil May Cry 1, 2, 3, and 4 for like €24 in total. Like, come on. Like, if you don't want to play the new games because you're not interested in them or whatever, stop fucking complaining. Just play the games you want to play. You know, especially if they're stupid. Especially if they're just going to be because play as women. If it's not an actual critique of the game before it comes out, I do not care. I do not really care about your critique of the game. It's not worth my time. Now, games that are marketed towards a greater audience, and not just men, allow for greater stories to be told. Again, Life is Strange, for an example. That is a game where there's two queer women there's two queer women. It's a story about two queer women, especially. That is a huge aspect of the game, right? We would not have that story if they didn't talk about if the game wasn't centered around that experience. It would not be the same. It wouldn't be the same. Same with Detroit Become Human, despite what the creator says. And there's obviously links towards racial prejudice in the United States, especially with early civil rights movements. That game wouldn't be the same without looking at those events, about doing those things. If it was just it was just like people shooting, it wouldn't be the same. You know, it wouldn't have the same impact, and it wouldn't make us look at stories in a certain way. And I do think those aspects, looking at them from the different aspects of life, the different aspects of that different people experience, I think can lead to so many good games being released, and people really and people that just bitch and moan online about woke games and shit. It's like, oh, games are woke and shit like that. And that, like, same with movies and TV shows. It's like it is just a bit like what's the point? It's just like I don't really care about your opinion. Like, their opinion isn't really great at the end of the day. But yeah. I also think it fucks with actual criticism of the game. Actual game criticism. I think it's because, again, if you see someone critiquing the game, they could just say something completely insane and just outright sexist about the game, and it just kind of ruins it. It basically makes it so that it's not as credible as if, let's just say, again, with God of War, right? And I know I use that example, but that's a very popular example. If that game came out today, right? If that game came out today and there was so many gameplay issues, it was super glitchy, it was super that, a lot of it would be filtered out by people just being about all the sexist shit that was coming out about how the game would be bad because you're playing as a woman, and not actual critiques about the game's going to be bad because of X or Y, or because of actual good reasons for it, you know? And you know what? Halo Campaign Evolved, I think, is another perfect example. Because there's lots of good criticism about the initial stages of the game being developed, and how they're taking away certain stuff that was in there, theater mode and forge mode aren't going to be in there. I think that's the things that are being not in there for no reason. Then there's other things that could have been that should be in there, but again, people are bitching about the fucking bisexual lighting, and it takes away from the actual criticism of the game and actual real critique from the game about how it should kind of be made, you know? It does definitely do that. You can't it definitely fucks with that, and if you it is so just come on. Now on to the conclusion. Well, actually no. Before I go into the conclusion, let's do a bit of a review on what I think what I think the best critiques are and what I think the worst critiques are. So the best critiques are the existence of DLC, and a lot of existing IPs are just turning up slop that aren't well developed games at all. They aren't games that are being made for Just like they aren't games that like care about the actual gameplay themselves. They don't care about how good or bad the game actually is. They just care about, yeah. They only seem to care really about like just getting it done as quickly as possible, screwing over like the game team around it, and just popping out shitting out a fucking €80 game that's gonna make them tons of fucking money. But yeah, I personally not a fan of that. Obviously, again, shitting out sloppy games and the existence of DLC, I think, are very fair criticisms. Um, I think also just poor business practice from like these older titles as well. But yeah. Um, that is a good critique, but there's also just tons of bad ones. Like, again, like I said, just like being mad that these games aren't marketed towards like you specifically. They aren't marketed like the game isn't marketed to what you would have wanted 20 years ago. And like, no shit, like people evolve, things evolve, and we're better for it. We are much better for having an evolving state of this than anything else. But yeah. And also just like kind of ignoring, especially critiques about like gaming's bad now, ignoring a lot of the new good games that are coming out by independent titles as well, and just ignoring the existence of indie titles, I think is very unfair in my opinion. But yeah, going to the conclusion now. And what can we take from all this? It depends on the issue. It depends on the game. We can't look at it from a general, like, industry basis. Well, we can't really look at it from like a total industry basis. Is gaming good? Is gaming bad or good? Yes or no? There's tons of issues. So unfortunately, everything I brought up, we kind of have to bring it. We kind of also have to discuss shit like Sony. What are Sony doing, and what Rockstar doing? What Ubisoft have been doing? And that also is an aspect. Is gaming good or bad? I kind of wanted to like move away from that, like for like not really discuss that because of how much. Because of what was going on, because of like I already mentioned it last week, and also because I didn't want this, because again it's a very like it is a super fucked issue, I think, because it is basically just like, because at least with, like when I talked about like people on Twitter just discussing this is just people on Twitter being dickheads, you know, it's like it's shitty, but also at the same time, it's not as like it's not that bad in terms of like it wouldn't affect all of gaming. This affects all of gaming, and unfortunately, you do have to bring up shit like this because it does negatively affect gaming now, and so it does. That is a very valid critique about the reduces physical discs is just a thing for like gaming is now going to be turned to shit. That is a very valid complaint. Now, obviously, of course, more games is being put out sloppily as well. On top of that, with like €70 price tags that are never going to go down. So even if it's like, let's say you want a game, it's not worth €70, but you're like, I might get it on sale for 15. They don't have to put it on sale now. There's no reason for them to just put it on sale. It's like they can just like not release it on Steam, which would have sales themselves. And so it's like, yeah. However, again, I do think there's a lot of. However, I do think overall, just looking at the games themselves and not what the shitty corporations, Sony, are doing. Sorry, I had a bit of a cough there. But yeah, looking at just like what the corporation, like just what everyone else's games themselves are doing, I personally think that yeah, I personally think that there's just a lot of good games that you could get that are especially independent titles, and I think the like independent titles are really going to take a rise up in the next few years. I think we really should give them a consideration. Now, again, as I said earlier, you do not have to buy a game you're not interested in. If you're not interested in the game, don't purchase it. If you don't want to purchase it, that's completely fine. You know, I'm not going to be personally trying a hissy fit about it, but you know, you do you, man. You do you. If you don't want to get a game, but again, I also suggest like giving it a bit of like give it a fair like treatment. You know, be fair with it. You might enjoy it. You might think it's the next coming of fucking Christ. For all I know, you might think the next like Undertale or Deltarune, whatever, or Mori, and might think those games are like, oh, these games are gonna be really good. These games are gonna be like the best shit that I've ever seen. So you might just give them like a fair judging, and then yeah. Now I do think we should also like an aspect of certain games, as I mentioned about biases, we should try and like ignore our biases and what like other people have said and like have our own opinions, make our own opinions on a game, because there might be a game that you might just enjoy. There might be a game that you might find so like weirdly enjoyable that others don't. Like there might be just like, oh, like let's use Metal Gear. Metal Gear 1. The original Metal Gear. That is a game that is very old. It has very old game mechanics. It's not a game that you'd expect a lot of people to have lots of joy with, lots of like fun with. But again, it could be a game that you like. This is like a very good game. I find it very enjoyable. I like the gameplay aspect of it. It's very nice and simple. You know, you could like that. You could like that aspect of it. And again, people might like rate it down because of how like it's an old game. The gameplay isn't as fun. It's not as good as the newer ones. Which again, yeah, I would agree. Like the newer games, hell, Metal Gear Solid 5, the game that I'm showing right now, I think has, in terms of like a physical gameplay aspect, is one of the best in the series. I think the stealth mechanics are so nice. Yeah, everything about this game is so nice. But again, you might have different enjoying. You might enjoy certain games a certain bit differently, and you can't be faulted for that. So again, if you're interested in the game, don't let what people say stop you from getting a game. So, my final thoughts, final words: is gaming bad or good? I think when you look at games themselves, the games themselves that are being released, overall they're good. The gaming industry as a whole is kind of bad because of the shitty practices that have been done and that are being done in the past week. And that is very sad. That's all I have to say. Hope you all have a good day. Peace out.